Hey there.
Hi.
I think that did the trick.
Okay.
Yeah, this is working, so I guess we'll live with this for now.
Sounds good. Were you good in the main room? Did you see everyone in the main room?
There's nobody in the main room. Oh yes. Oh, you're saying before.
When we first started. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, how did you? I ran through the agenda. Did you want me to? I think the rest of my subcommittee, or at least the people that were supposed to be in the I just don't think they're present tonight. Did you officially transfer over into this subcommittee, or are you kind of like arbitrating?
I think I might. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be part of your group. Just because we have Casey, Sarah, and Manor who have shown up and like really given it, and Eddie, like right, I can rely on them on the pit. And I know you guys, like obviously Dr. Hill's in here, Jessica's not here, so yeah, I think I'm with y'all. If that's okay, if you'll have me.
Okay. All right, let me just pull that agenda back in again, so I can. I guess I can.
Yeah, it has nothing on it. It's just literally us brainstorming of what we want to do for the next 6 months when it comes to talent. I
was going to ask Jarrett because when gosh, how could I forget his name already? What was our previous staff member's name? How could I do that? How could I forget? Graham. How could I do it? So when Graham, he basically was keeping like a repository of like all of the notes that we were taking when he was kind of overseeing the subcommittee. And in our last subcommittee meeting, we basically like laid out our goals and our actions and our general trajectory for 2022. And I assumed that would kind of transfer over to Jarrett, because you know how like each subcommittee meeting, Graham would essentially just, take notes, kind of set the pace a little bit. But and I tried to find that sheet, but I think he didn't. I'm not sure he sent it out. I think he was just keeping it. I can look for it. I tried to look for it, and I didn't come up with anything, because I was going to kind of use that as the staging grounds for this meeting, at least. Particularly because that would kind of set the stage and would give us some structure, and would so that we could come back to the full group and tell the rest of you all that, what we're focusing on concretely, what we've done, and what our focus areas are, right? So I will continue to try to dig that last iteration of that document up, but I was mostly going to ask Jarrett now if he had access to that. Because remember, there were like rules around like sharing that document outside of like the subcommittee or more than 2 people, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if we actually want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, like I didn't know how stringently like we were paying attention to that or whatever, right? But so
yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find his notes from that subcommittee as well. And I don't know if Jarrett, honestly, I don't know what Jarrett got, so we can make a quick ask, but if not, we can start just.
I mean, frankly, like even if we don't have it, it's not the end of the road. Like we can just kind of quickly hash out like the things that we covered last year, and then talk about like deliverables and things like that that we were going to assess this year. I can tell you that like our deliverables were pretty straightforward, right? They were frankly just a white paper. That was one option that we were going to post to the group, talking about like the 3 tenets that this subcommittee was responsible for, right? Talent, outreach, and education. And it was going to be a white paper, and no more than like 4 pages, if that, probably like 3 pages, something people could easily digest. It's not going to be this big pull that, we would have to do. We would just iterate every subcommittee meeting. And then I think maybe in like 3 months, we could show that to the group, right? With the intention of delivering it to the board. That was one option. The second option, I think, was just going to be a testimony. I think similar to what you did, Denver, where you, I think, it was during the penny tax when you testified to the board. And if there was going to be any kind of board matter that was going to come up, or a legislative session focused on our particular area, then we thought that could be a deliverable where we could claim the fact that we went up there, we told them about our ideas, and that would be our deliverable, just so we could claim that, right? And those were our two main objectives, frankly. I purposefully did not want to make this like a science project. I didn't want to sit there and like make like a big PowerPoint that would never really, go anywhere. I wanted it to be very simple, very direct, and something that we could iterate specifically during these committees. And was that what the other subcommittees did too?
So what the pit's doing is they're going to do a bus study, and they are also doing like actual like studies under their infrastructure. So when you say a white paper, what is it focusing on? Are we focusing on the new Fairfax County outreach plan and how that can be improved to engage young voters and young professionals? Is it looking at our high school pipeline to local colleges? Like what do you mean by this white paper, and what are we testifying on?
Yeah, so we basically were focusing on those sections of the strategic plan that focused on education, outreach, and talent. Is that what you all were you all kind of taking your directions from the strategic plan too?
No.
You weren't, right? Okay.
No. So the strategic plan was for our letter to the board with the strategic plan. But I mean, if you all got a charge out of that, I have that list of y'all's priorities with the strategic plan that I can pull up.
Yeah. I don't know why. Like, I think I made the ask if I can just keep it locally, that document, and there's some reason why I couldn't do that. But yes, long story short, I thought it would be easiest and frankly most effective to just draw based off of the strategic plan. There's all this work that was already done, but we, the value proposition there was that as the Young Adults Committee, we are putting a special focus on the strategic plan, but with a kind of a young adult lens. And that was going to be the focus of the white paper. There were, I think, under each section, there were particular areas that, we like painstakingly marked up and talked about, this is what our recommendation would be, and this is how we would amend the strategic plan.
Here, I'm going to drop your planning document into the chat.
Okay.
I think I found it. Because you guys were called the Civic Engagement Subcommittee at that point. I know we went through several iterations. Yeah. Oh, can I share a document in Teams?
Yeah, I think you can post it in the chat. Or you can, you should be able to post it in the chat.
Hold on, that's a link. Let me see if I can just drag it and hold it. Come over.
Hey, Jarrett, I see you joined. You got past the Teams purgatory, huh?
I was hesitant. I didn't want to, break it if it was working. I was hanging out. Glad to hear you guys are good.
Yeah, I ended up just having to sign in through my phone because it wasn't working through my computer, so it's all good. But so what I was asking Denver, Jarrett, was, so when Graham was essentially like, when he was here and kind of helping us maneuver these subcommittee meetings, one of the things that he would do, and one of the things he did specifically for our subcommittee, was he kept like a live document for our subcommittee, and that document included like the marked up iteration of the strategic plan that our group was going to present to the wider committee, and that was going to serve as one of our deliverables. But I, for some reason, could not keep that locally. I think he had to keep that. And I didn't know if you had access to that in the case that he, during the transition, in case he passed it over.
Yeah, I can follow back up. I know it was definitely one of those main items from last year that you guys worked on.
Yeah.
And I can certainly ping him back on with that. So you just want to like kind of use that as an example for kind of, you know, for going forward, and a good place to kind of start for new objectives and everything, or even still get that across the goal line.
That was not only something that we're going to claim as a deliverable for us, but also something that was going to help us like orient for 2022, right? The deliverable that we didn't get to, you know, I think finalize, that we had to do that pending like wider approval, was taking that marked up strategic plan that we kind of amended from a, you know, talent, education, and outreach perspective, based off like, you know, research and studies online, and just marked it up. We were going to submit that, right? I think it just needed like one more like a final iteration before we did that. So if we can somehow recoup that, I think that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll ping him, you know, after we get off this evening. He and I have had a lot of correspondence going back and forth, and between the shared folders between different departments, there's been a lot of like kind of piecemealing and all that. But yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
And then and then I can just distribute it to you in Denver, for instance, to keep it limited to 2. No offense, Natalia.
It's okay.
So I have the docs, and I'm trying to like just get a shareable link that you can't edit but you can view, and it's giving me a hard time. So hopefully I can pull that up before we adjourn right now, or adjourn at 7. So
So who were the other, besides Deanie and Jessica, were there any new additions to this group, Jarrett? Just remind me.
So yes, from the January meeting, we had we welcomed 2 new council members. Sam Niner, who we actually elected as secretary, and then that gentleman from the representative from Northern Virginia Community College, Dr. Richmond Hill. He was sick last month, and I don't know what happened this evening, unfortunately.
All good. Okay.
But they're new members, so they're not in the waiting room right now. So I don't know.
Okay.
So at least on paper, there's a little bit more support, but yeah, we need to.
No, I mean, it's I wasn't necessarily asking for like a cap or something. I was just curious, like, who joined, because I know there were new additions.
I don't know, Jessica is preserving her time in other spaces that I like interact with her, so I'm not sure if she's going to seek reappointment, but that's definitely something we can ask.
Yeah, Denver. So I was going to share that for the announcement, so I can just mention it now. Unfortunately, I received she sent myself correspondence, as well as the Palchik's office, that she unfortunately has resigned.
Who did?
Oh.
Jessica.
Okay.
So we are seeking somebody else to backfill for her appointment, because she actually was just reappointed.
All right, I'm sorry, y'all. I think Teams is just killing my bandwidth and it's not allowing me to upload any documents. So in the absence of that information, Judith, how do you want to go about making a plan today and discuss who you want to come in as a speaker or the project focus for next month?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the speaker, I candidly didn't have anybody like top of mind. I was frankly going to ask Jarrett if given you have a kind of a better knowledge, I think, of the different offices than I do. I would certainly be open to any recommendations. We didn't have any guest speakers, I don't think last year. So anybody perhaps associated with like the talent department or the education department, or maybe a hybrid of the three that I think the one person that we did have, Denver, was that one gentleman from Capital One, or like the Fairfax County Employer.
The economic opportunity office or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were a little bit more focused on like, I guess kind of like the deliverable and, what we wanted to report out that we didn't, perhaps it was like our fault, didn't really spend too much time thinking about the guest speaker, etc. But yeah, any recommendations that you would have, we can certainly take. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm I don't have like that institutional knowledge yet of the county. However, I'll certainly use my resources to, make some suggestions.
Great. And I think your other question was what our focus would be next month, Denver?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, would love to. I don't want to speak right now just because I'd love to kind of see the document, kind of see where we left off. If it's hard for you to share it over Teams, is there a way maybe you could send it to me? Because I think you can communicate, one person or something. So
yeah, I can definitely do that. I'm just trying to share it now in the chat, but for some reason my bandwidth is hating Teams and it's just Teams is eating everything. So
Denver, you could, if you wanted to email it to me, or same thing essentially Sujit suggested as well. You try to pull it up.
If she sends it to me, though,
but then we open up another application, right, Denver?
Yes. So then there's another thing. So I don't know what's happening. I'm going to try to close these tabs and maybe that will help. So do you think, looking at that, there are new members, right? Do you think that focus and that plan is still what the subcommittee would want? Or do we need to have a completely different conversation since we will be restart that combo?
I think it's probably not worth starting from scratch, right? Just because like we did, do a lot of work, and it was very iterative and consensus driven, and I don't think it's just because Jessica had to like separate, I don't think we should start from scratch. I think we should absolutely use that as our guiding document, or else we'll just have done that for nothing, right? So I think it's worth just keeping that document, really using claiming that one deliverable really as our, obviously after we finalize it and then decide, which medium we want to take that in, a submittal to the board, or, pass it through the group first and then finalize it. And then the second avenue, which I was telling you about, right? The, testifying at some certain point, or if there's like a particular board meeting that they would have us, testify at per our, authority, that would be nice.
So we can report out on recommendations. Testimony will only have to happen towards a board matter. or towards the budget. So if you looked at the budget and you all identified something that you want to cover, that's something we can put some testimony together for. We do have space, and it's within our duties to present to the board our findings. So we can just schedule time with the clerk if you all want to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, it says sharing is unavailable at this time. Why?
Yeah.
But I'm still not sure what the deliverables are. Like, what are you focusing on? What are the top two things? And I know you're like, I need to see the strategic plan, but like, do you recall if they were about community building? Were they about
I think
education?
they were essentially about like talent development, like inclusive talent development, factoring in like the rapid growth that, you know, this county is seeing over the next 5 years. It was literally centered around talent development and sustainable sustainable outreach for over the next 5 years. Given like, you know, the onslaught of new companies and, you know, young adults who are flooding not just Northern Virginia, but, you know, Fairfax County more specifically. So that was like what our focus area was. And every line amendment that we made in the strategic plan that we were going to deliver out was centered around talent development.
So I see promote entrepreneurial sector that encourage business growth for individuals of all ages, limiting redundant and unnecessary regulations. So like that type of stuff.
Yep.
I'm reading you what I see since I can't freaking share it. So, Okay. So bringing in the Economic Development Authority back into the space and finding a way for us to embed ourselves in those efforts might be a conversation, and seeing like if they have a young adult representative on the authority, the regional authority and the Fairfax County Authority, to have that conversation of young people, i.e. students, and then young professionals, and how we can bridge that gap. Because I think definitely the student aspect is something I personally struggle with, because I am not a 15-year-old trying to figure out my next journey in life. Thank goodness. But you know, like we have completely two different perspectives in that space. So maybe that's something we can get on the calendar and try to figure out how the county can improve policies, improve budget lines, or add budget lines, add representation on these authorities to allow for those conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously like, I think presence is everything, and unless we are there to actually make those recommendations, then that's all they're just unspoken recommendations. So I like that idea, and I wrote that down, that you know, perhaps promoting a young professional or a student or a, I don't know, get heart professional on the economic developmental authority that's another concrete recommendation, right? So, and then we can show them or bring to them the recommendations that we have kind of cultivated there.
Yeah. And something, I don't know if I want to bring this to the council at large, but I would love to have the subcommittee take a first bite at, is you were there with the presentation. We're like, we are going to focus on outreach and inclusion, and we have this great plan. And we're like, what is it? They're like, it's a website. Broke my heart. And I would love for those conversations to continue, because they assume that the onus, which we talked about in the strategic plan, the onus is on the resident and not on the county to communicate.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think we had marked up in the plan was things about like more modern and compelling communication, right? And compelling outreach. It can't just be a website. That I think is not going to be like an effective medium, nor is it something that like we're capable of doing much more. And I think a lot of the line items that we had written were things like language sensitive communication, application forward communication, things like using social media in a little bit more of a nimble way. I think, you know, to the county's credit, they do a fairly good job on social media, but perhaps they're not necessarily ahead of the curve, right? They kind of just they they kind of just post on Facebook and they make tweets, but they're not necessarily making inroads in the kind of communities that this subcommittee is focused on. So that's one of the things that we had written, that it's worth showing up or doing targeted communication, targeting digital communication towards certain pockets of people. Instagram targeting and Facebook targeting is something that we had written up directly in the document. Because I'm not quite sure the county's really doing that, right? I'm not sure they have the legal authority right now, nor have they asked to do that. So that is one specific recommendation that we did make, that you can't just make these, blanket communications for people of all Chinese, of all like Asian backgrounds to be voting within whatever language that is. You have to focus on areas where that demographic group tends to reside more in, right? So targeted outreach is something that we had specifically wrote in the document.
Yeah, so I was able to, after 15 minutes, share the link, so they're in the chat. You want to get that. Definitely. And I think, the county loves to say they're inclusive with their sample ballots. It comes in, 19 different languages or something of that sort that you can request. But when it comes to the county website and when it comes to actual meetings, there aren't interpreters. There aren't, other folks. I'm currently working in a program where we've hired an ASL interpreter, well, two. And those aren't open and accessible to our community, even though Northern Virginia has one of the highest deaf communities in the nation. That's a gullet, right? So that's definitely, breaking down language barriers, which include lack of verbal language.
Right. Yeah, and let me see if I can pull it up here. And both documents are different, correct?
Yes, one is your original outline plan from the first subcommittee meeting, and the other one is the strategic plan. I can't tell you which one is which, but hopefully they open faster for you.
Let me open them up here. I'm on my phone, so it's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that was at least my broader plan, right? At the next subcommittee, when we do have quorum, to run this by them and say, hey, this is what our group came up with, and how can we actually what is the next step that we take, right? Where are some concrete ways that we can share this document, and who do we get it to, was going to kind of be my next question. For example, and you kind of just answered that. Well, one of the suggestions that you just had was, right, maybe taking this directly to the developmental authority and talking to them directly about it, given the work that we did and seeing what is being done in here, and if not, giving them ideas, right? That's just one route. Difference. Another route is just the digital developmental office, right? Taking that targeted communication idea to them, right? Right? I think the county touts a lot, and they do a pretty good job, I think, in the digital arena, but they're not necessarily kind of keeping up with the trends, maybe quite like our friends in Arlington County or the city of Falls Church, and et cetera. So.
Right. And something I want to be careful in this space because I also do it professionally, but if we could meet with folks in the K-12 system, with Northern Virginia community colleges, and talk about the talent piece when it comes to trade training and increasing that in Northern Virginia, because we're seeing software development, IT jobs popping up, especially with HQ2, right? So how can we shift from and this is my job, so like I have a bias. How can we shift from putting everyone through a 4-year degree and maybe provide opportunities even for relearners to stay in the area and to become up to date with the trades and demands of the area? And that even includes like we don't have enough HVAC people. Like we are so low on HVAC, right? And that's like a $115,000 job starting. So
Yeah. So Denver, you and by the way, I just brought Sam in, but I know that I know that my, some colleagues in my department, they worked on an economic, on the EAC like working group yesterday, and the main focus was around work-based learning. So we heard a little bit about that yesterday. Like I wasn't directly involved with it, but it was about, like tracking, the high school students, they graduate, they either go to college or, maybe there's like another, path, another like a technical like skill set or something like that. And, there was a lot of emphasis, regarding this WBL, to add another acronym, but this work-based learning. So I can certainly.
That's literally what I do for a living, is work-based learning in the Atlantic States. So if you could tell me who leads that group, that would be great. And I will connect them with them between 9 and 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I know there are a lot of different kind of stakeholders between different departments, like DFS, obviously DEI, EDA. So, let me check with Scott, and then also, Rebecca, and see who would be the appropriate, person to connect you with.
Right, because my organization has best practices of all the states and all the localities that can easily be implemented as long as we adapt to the policy norms of that state or locality. So would love to see that. But sorry for making this work related. Sam, welcome.
Well, that's part of it, right? You're supposed to bring your skill sets, your professional, acumen and all that, and see how it translates. So that's good.
Thank you, Denver, for inviting me.
Of course. All right, Judith, what else are we thinking? So Economic Development Authority would be great.
I think we lost Sujit.
No, I know he was on his phone.
So I did just receive word just that the other group is going to, stay logged in, and then just take a quick break before 7. But, Sam, I appreciate you jumping on. I saw you sent an email. I wasn't able to check it. Denver, are you good? Are you both good? Natalia, I know you're still on here as well. Do you guys just want to kind of end this one, or you want to keep kind of hashing stuff out, chat for a little bit, or just take a quick breather before we have DMB come on and do their presentation for the full council meeting?
Can we see if Judith jumps on, try to plan April, and then hopefully we'll give folks like a 5-minute breather between the two. So yeah, the next 3 minutes.
All right. So I'm reassigning.
But once again, I get into like head mode and I hate myself for taking lead. So if I need to step down, please someone call me out. Because I'm happy to do that.
All right, he's back.
Hey, sorry, I got kicked. Yeah, what I was just saying to Denver's point though is one of the things that I've been somewhat wary of and tried but am interested in is like all of the data that the county does collect on these particular topics, right? The kinds of where are high schoolers who are graduating the county, what are they doing? Someone has to be tracking that, right? Like, I don't want to assume that people aren't, but I also don't want to add redundancy to this process. I don't want to go back to the department and tell them to do things that they're already doing and, be condescending in that way, right? Because I actually think very, very highly of these, civil servants who are literally collecting vast amounts of data about this, but I just don't know. I don't know enough about the inner workings to know how much they're informing policy. Like, obviously, it's very applicable to the matter of this subcommittee about how can we like retool the what guidance counselors are telling high schoolers about their prospects after college or after high school. Is a 4-year degree the most appropriate? Can indeed a 2-year HVAC program be paying double what a 4-year degree is paying? Like, what information are guidance counselors leading, right? And I know for a fact that there's so much data, and we're a subcommittee of 4 people, and I don't want to trip over ourselves, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. And I can tell you, unfortunately, data is not collected, and we tout the 12 students that do the construction apprenticeship in Fairfax County. And those are 12 students out of our hundreds of thousands a year. Yeah, I think maybe just to have a plan for next month with the subcommittee, maybe like sitting down and making a list of folks we want to make direct asks to. Of like, do you have this data? Does this exist? And drafting that language would be a great step and would allow people to look at these docs too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
In Denver, and guys, we did allocate a little bit of time also to kind of come back into the full council as well, just to not feel like rushed and all that. For this meeting, just so we're clear on what each subcommittee wants to do like next month and obviously beyond.
Yeah, no, but I like that next step though. I think knowing who to reach out to and ask is half the battle. And would love to know. I think that's a great agenda for our next subcommittee. To your question, Denver, is we will aim to target all of the people that we want to contact and ask all of the questions that are going to be informed by the delivery that we put together. Because those are the people ultimately that we're trying to reach, right? Short of the full board, it's the county government. So yeah, that's what we'll focus on then.
Okay, great. And I think our charge individually, and I'll do it, is like do some homework and research different departments, different heads, so we have names, so we can start drafting that in advance.
Yep.
Okay. All right, the other group is giving a break between now and our other one, so we can keep going, but I just want to bring that up.
I'm good to take a break. I know, I don't know how you all are feeling, but I'm good either way. But
I don't
care. All right. Well, hey, listen, I'm going to bounce out right now just to make sure that I get the main council meeting configured correctly. So appreciate it, guys, and I will close this room in just a couple minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I would say get up, get hydrated. We'll come back in 3 minutes. I mean, God forbid, I'm giving a 3-minute break. So, all right. Thanks, y'all.
We come back here, Denver?
Yeah, just keep it open. You'll be returned to the main room.
Thank you.